Cheers. Welcome back to my channel, Food for Thought. I'm Trey. So I'm coming to you today, the 17th of December, 2025. And yesterday, Candace reported what her and Erika talked about during the private meeting. Well, I have many different thoughts, and I'm trying to keep calm, and not calm, but keep everything organized and in a straight line, because I got thoughts kind of going all over the place. But anyways, I'm curious of your thoughts. I'll give my takeaways actually, at the end of the video, because there are definitely some things that during Candace's podcast yesterday that stuck out to me that I just wanted to bring out, give my 2 cents on, and see what you think about it. The first thing is that, and again, I have my handy dandy notebooks, no fuss scratch notes here. No fuss chicken scratch, I'm sorry. So the first thing is that I'm glad that they were able to get together and meet. I believe that Erika and Candace had some sort of relationship outside of their businesses, their TP USA, and other things they had going on. I think they had personal relationships outside of that business. I actually saw, at some point yesterday, I saw a picture of, it looked like Candace in a wedding dress and Erika Kirk standing next to her, and they looked like they were pretty well acquainted. Looked like they were having fun. I was like, wow. So, I mean, it might be obvious that Erika went to Candace's wedding. I didn't know that, but I did see the picture, so I just thought that was interesting. So, at least for that point, that they had a relationship outside of the business, I'm glad that they both were able to, at least for part of the 4.5 hours that they met, have a heart-to-heart on the human level. And let me say that as well. I believe there's a lot going on. I believe this rabbit hole goes very deep. But I also believe, I also believe that I believe that we're still talking about, again, two highly intelligent, highly talented women, mothers of young children. And I'm speaking to the heart of the thing. And I was like, oh, Trey, here you go. We're talking about the conspiracy and the deep dives and the rabbit holes. And, I have my own beliefs. And I do believe that I admit and believe that the rabbit hole does go deep. Sorry for my chair squeaking. Got to get some WD-40. But I believe that the rabbit hole goes deep. And I believe there are several of them. But I still at least try to speak to the human in any situation. It kind of reminds me of those cartoons way back in the days. And I don't want to date myself, but the back in the days of G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, and way back, Scooby-Doo. There were cartoons that would show a person who was on this side of things, and then they were influenced by something else. And the heroes in the story, through this episode of whatever cartoon it was or TV show that it was, with the whole show, they would be, we as the audience would say, hey, just leave them alone. They're going to hurt you. But at the same time, that was their friend. That was their, they were close to that person. So they, all the way up to the end of the Sorry, I had to adjust my camera here. All the way up to the end, I had to adjust my screen. The camera's here, but I had to adjust my screen. Sorry, but all the way up to the end of the episode, they would be trying to, you know, wake their friend up, shake their friend. Hey, don't you remember me? We used to do this. They would go down memory lane, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end, the friend would sometimes snap out of it, and then everything's good. And I'm not saying that's this situation, but it reminds me of it a little bit when I see pictures like, again, Erika at Candace's wedding. Anyways, Candace felt that um, yesterday was well, not yesterday, but Candace felt that the meeting that they had was a very productive meeting. Part of me felt as though it would, and to some degree, that they were going to get some things out that, again, they couldn't necessarily say on camera. And I believe Candace mentioned that. She said that they had a chance to, and I don't see where it's at in my notes, but Candace said that they had a chance, that her and Erika had a chance to. That actually Candace said she had a chance to. Sorry, Candace had said she had a chance to say some things to Erika in private. And again, Candace has still um, said that she is and always has been available for public conversation. But being as though they were in private, she's happy they got to speak about some things that in private that I guess aren't for our ears. I'd love to actually hear what they talked about in private. The things that weren't for us to hear. But I'm just a nosy person. But anyways, Candace also spoke about the magic bullet and no blood. There was a piece about the doctor's report, and I actually read it. Someone posted it, and I read it. Um, on the surface, um, the report seemed regular. Just to my naked eye. Hey, the person, Charlie had a strong bone density, et cetera, and you know, I don't want to repeat what happened, but we all know what happened. But the report seemed pretty decent on to the naked eye, but when you, I guess, use your noggin, it's like, that doesn't really make sense based on, I don't know if anyone's had any loved ones that have, had unfortunate, I guess, incidences with, said things, but even TV, I guess, I don't want to bring TV shows into it because we know that's not real. But anyways, the report seemed little, um, I'll just use the word sketchy. And then within that surgeon report, Candace mentioned, possible, or mentioned that someone said something about HIPAA violations, whereas I think Andrew Culver, you know, said, I guess put out some content about the report, and like Candace said, hey, how would you put that information out? Isn't that a HIPAA violation? And I believe that it would be a HIPAA violation that if someone had a report from a surgeon and then someone that's not even related to the family, they work for the company, putting out putting out information like that. I think it's a HIPAA report, but apparently Mr. Covert um, got permission, so he says. There was another piece that Candace mentioned about Tyler Robinson, and she's not convinced that he's the guilty party to do that terrible thing that happened that day at UVA. She believes that he was involved in some way, but not directly involved in that way. Um, I didn't think about it that deep, but I agree with Candace that I don't that I agree with Candace that Tyler is involved, but not in that way. Um, so I'm sure as time goes on, we'll learn a bit more. But what do you think? Do you think Tyler is the smoking gun or not? Um, Candace mentioned phone logs I think the phone logs that she posted were from Mikey and Neff. Blake Neff, and it was just a timeline. So the time, and then this event happened for Mikey, and also for sorry about that, and also for um, Blake Neff. Um, I'm not really sure about that. What all that is, but um, anyways, Candace was saying that these phone logs that she saw, based on what Blake has been saying, happened after the event, don't add up. So if we kind of run down the list, and I'm not going to repeat everything, I guess, just hit rewind, sorry. But if we just run down a list of things that I've mentioned so far already, uh, 1 plus 1 is not 2. Right now, 1 plus 1 is like the square root of 5.10 or something. Things just don't add up. And I'm not saying that anyone's lying. I'm not saying anyone is doing conspiracy. I'm not saying that we've even gone into the rabbit hole yet. But based on what I've seen and heard on the surface, and these are things I've just mentioned here, things don't make sense. I'll put it like that. I don't want to say that they don't add up, but things don't make sense at the least. Um, she also mentioned and I'm sorry. Um, so Candace said, let me rewind for a second. Candace said that it was a very productive meeting. And one of the first things that I remember was that she said, because Erika owned up to the lies. So I think that's big, to just, admit that, hey, like if Candace brought, when Candace would bring some information, if Erika just, hey, you know what? That was a lie. You're right. Or however she admitted it. So I think that was a good thing. That was a good thing. Now, again, I have my deeper thoughts on the situation, but I'm glad that Candace gave Erika credit for um, owning the lies and and Erika admitting that she learned some things from Candace's content. So picture, I guess, when we saw Erika speaking on these other shows, and she was saying some things that didn't make sense. And we were like, hey, that's a lie. Maybe, maybe at least one of those were honest. Maybe she wasn't lying. She just didn't know. I believe it was a particular piece about her having Charlie's phone and him not saying that he felt threatened that something was going to happen. Again, I would think that, first of all, on one side of it, how does Erika have his phone? I would think that'd be evidence, just evidence based on that would have been on his person, and evidence based on the information that has been coming out. But on the other hand, that was her husband, so I'm sure she's got a lot of things going on. So however she's got his phone, did he have 2 phones? Did he have 10 phones? But she has at least 1 phone, and she didn't see that information in there. So was it a lie, or she just was uninformed, or both? Anywho, Candace also mentioned about the Hampton retreat, and the fact that there was a large amount of money on the table, and I believe Charlie turned it down, and apparently that same amount is what TP USA has made since the event in September. And apparently, um, I believe it was said that Bibi Netanyahu didn't offer that um, money to TPSA, but I believe that Candace, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Candace had said that she saw or has proof or something that he did offer that money to them. And I don't know if Candace has access to the bank account or whoever she's got access to that still works for TPUSA, but apparently they did make that same exact amount of money that BB was offering to Charlie. I'm sorry, to Charlie. So that's pretty interesting. And I thought it was fun. It's not fun. Nothing's funny about this, but I thought it was curious. I thought it was funny. I'll just put it like that. Candace was like, hey, you know, she's not going to take any money from BB or anyone else associated with that side, but she will take money from Qatar. At some point, Qatar kept coming up as like one of those fan fictions that Candace called it, where the other side is making up fictional stories about her. And Qatar came up, and I believe one of the persons in the chat said, "Hey, why does Qatar keep coming up? They don't seem like they've done anything ever, but they always come up in stories, not even related to this one, but just other stories." And Candace was like, "Hey, I'm not going to sell out and uh, take money from that side where BB is, but hey, Qatar, drop the bag. I'll take all the money. Is what Candace was speaking about. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The next piece was the Egyptian planes, and that now I didn't really. Candace said some interesting things, but I didn't really. I'm not really that well versed on the Egyptian planes piece. I've never. I couldn't pick an Egyptian plane out of the lineup. I know what Southwest, Delta, the basic plane, Spirit. I know what those planes look like, but an Egyptian plane, I have no clue what they look like. But apparently, these Egyptian planes, and I'm saying from how I understand it, from what Candace was saying, that apparently these Egyptian planes, based on flight logs and tracking, are constantly flying in and out of Israel. So let's just assume that there's some overlap between when these planes were flying in and out of Israel to the United States, and then at the time when Erika may or may not have been on the planes. Let's just say there's some overlap, or near the planes or something. Again, I'm not that well versed on if Erika was on any plane at all, any Egyptian plane at all, but let's just say there's some overlap as far as events, and her whereabouts. And apparently, from what Candace said, there's a pattern. If you have any more information on that, I'm curious as to what you think about that. Uh, Please drop the comment in the comment section. I love interacting with you all, and again, I'm a curious person. Again, the channel is food for thought, because when there's something going on, or tidbits of information, or just those things that make you go, I like to speak with people and see what, I'm the one that says, hey, well, I see you see it that way. Un- unfortunately, I see it that way. What do you think about this? And, at least it could be, hey, we agree to disagree, but that's interesting. That's a food for thought. Here's another food for thought. What do you think about that? So anyways, um, I'm curious of what you think about what I've mentioned so far. I'll leave those comments in the comment section. Um, so back to the points that Candace brought up yesterday from her and Erika Kirk's meeting. She spoke about another pattern, not just so I just mentioned about the pattern in the flight logs of the Egyptian planes, but she was mentioning a pattern related to the, as she called it, Candace fan fiction, where let's just say that the other side, so you got Candace's side, and then we got the other side, where she's saying the other side, she's noticing the strategy is the same as when she dealt with the uh, I guess French prime minister, and just when she's dealt with other persons that have tried to slant her character and slant her name and slant her platform, slant the information that she was giving out. The pattern is basically, as she said, to just keep bombarding the bombarding the information system, be it news, social media, podcasts, etc., with information. Just keep bombarding it to keep people busy reacting, um, people busy reacting versus sitting back and just deeply analyzing things, and seeing the patterns, and seeing the things that don't add up. To just keep people reacting, basically a distraction. And so she mentioned that between some things that the New York Post had put out about her, and she also mentioned some things, or mentioned that. So let's just say she mentioned that the New York Post was an example of putting out a bunch of information, getting people to react versus slowing down and thinking about the information. And she also mentioned Tim Pool. And we know Tim Pool has gone online a lot and crashed out, about uh, Candace, and said some, as a man, I believe are some really disrespectful things. And as Coach Collins said, a lot of things that he has said to and about Candace, and in the aggressive manner that he has said it, I don't think he would necessarily say it that way and those things to another man that was physically standing in front of him. I just don't. And I'm not a tough guy. I'm just basing it on logic. I don't. That was highly aggressive. I don't think that anyone should speak to anyone in that manner, but especially a man speaking to a woman. And so, based on those two examples, the New York Post putting a bunch of information out there, and I think they said she was. I think New York Post said that Candace was monetizing baseless information, basically saying she's lying. And then Tim Pool was saying that one example was that Candace didn't have any security, and in another podcast, he said that she had the same security that TPUSA has. So and then again the crash outs that he's had against Candace. Um, Candace believes that, and Candace believes that based on those two examples and other examples of this, the fan fiction, that means that she is getting close to the truth. And again, that's a deep rabbit hole. What is the truth, and how evil does it get? So she believes. So it reminds me of a thunderstorm. It's like the calm before the storm. And what happens is there's a calm, and as the storm gets closer, before you can kind of you can kind of smell the rain and see the storm in the distance on the horizon. But right where you are, the trees and the wind starts whipping, the trees start going crazy, and things start blowing around. And then at some point, here's the storm. So it's like a sign, almost like a sign of something coming. And again, Candace views it as this. I believe Candace said she views it as a sign that she's getting closer to the truth, whatever that may be. Candace mentioned previously that, and I mentioned it in the previous video, about Erika Kirk, I guess, tweeting that no one from either side should do a live stream during the private meeting that they had. And apparently TPUSA had a live stream during the private meeting that Candace and Erika had. Candace admitted that she didn't realize that the same time that the private meeting that her and Erika had was actually the same time that TPUSA goes on a broadcast. So, did it go against what Erika said, or were they within their right, because that's the regular time they go on? I can understand if they would have a time, if that was their regular show time, that they would go on, because it wasn't the same as what Erika was saying, but it wasn't the same as what Erika requested. But I also understand that they might have said some things. The commentators on TPUSA might have said some things derogatory about the meeting and Candace. So maybe they used that opportunity, even though they were on the air as usual, schedule permitted. They maybe use that opportunity to still kick up some dirt and keep the barrage of information coming in to distort the situation. So, anyways, moving along, I'm almost at the end. So I know I'm sorry if I'm a bit wordy, but like I said, there was a lot going on, and I'm trying to keep it as um, organized as I can. Um, so I'm sorry for pausing. I'm just trying to again stay organized here. Um, Right. So, um, Candace again mentioned that at some point that she's glad that the meeting wasn't live because she said some things that were private. But she still has and always has, she still is and always has welcomed a non-private meeting. And she also mentioned that, and again, I think this was a part of what the chat was saying yesterday. There were a lot of the chat, the chat that was going on. I read some comments in the chat that were going on during Candace's live broadcast yesterday, and then it was pretty intense in there. It was pretty intense, and Candace even mentioned some of them. And one of the things she said was, "Hey, you know, I haven't sold out. I'm still on the same mission I was before, and unfortunately, um, there are persons who um, aren't hearing what they wanted to hear." And my question to you is, based on, so let's rewind. When you first heard about um, Candace and Erika having a private meeting, um, as far as the results of the meeting, what did you want to hear? I'm curious of what you wanted to hear. Um, so um, let me go back here because I kind of drifted away for a second. Um, yeah. So again, the comments were, some of the comments said that, hey, some of the comments were calling Candace a sellout, being as though saying, hey, she took the bag, I guess, from Bibi Netanyahu. Some comments said that she caved. Some comments were saying that she's fake. Some comments basically said that she didn't keep her foot on Erika's neck and all kind of stuff. And, of course, there were comments that were, encouraging her and saying, thank you. We're glad you're safe. And I'm glad she's safe. I'm glad both of them are safe. Um, so anyway, we're at the end of the video. Um, here are my takeaways. And sorry to look away from the camera. I have a couple here, so I want to just make sure I kind of read them in the right order. Um, my takeaways are this. Candace has been open to public and not private convo and truth from day one. I believe that the meeting between the two was damage control from TPUSA. I'm not sure what percentage Erika is involved in the damage control part, because I'm looking at it as, we have a person and an organization, a person in the organization and a person in an organization. So again, I believe as far as the organization is concerned, that meeting between Candace and Erika was definitely damage control. And again, as I stated in the previous video, I believe this is a chess game. Again, both these women are highly intelligent. They have strategy, and they're trying to get their truths out, and trying to get their point out, and trying to whatever their goal. We know what Candace's goal is, but whatever the goals are, they're trying to get the goals meet their goals. So it's definitely a chess game, and so I'm curious as to see what's going to happen next. And then again, lastly, I'm glad that Candace is safe. So again, thank you for joining my channel, Food for Thought. My name is Trey. See you on the next video.